Hello and welcome to RingTalk Series 3, Episode 9. This isn't a karaoke video. This is Goodwin Boxing's RingTalk. Slightly different setup.
Yeah, we're announcing the formation of the new boy band.
Yep, we're going out in our headphones. No, new setup. This isn't the full setup, gentlemen, but this is a new one. First of all, how are we?
All good. Looking forward to the show this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
How much of a Burke do you feel with that microphone holding it? I know you're not happy about this.
I'd say a 6 out of 10, because luckily I can pull most things off. You two look 10 out of 10, but as I say, I'm the most.
But we are going to get arms and everything for next week. So this is just a trial with the equipment.
This is the thing. So we've had a couple of ring talks we recorded that didn't work through sound issues and everything else like that. So hence the investment in some new microphones for us. So obviously we're going to talk about the show this weekend. We've got a show coming up, GB Fight Series 12, the 12th of November at your call. Do you want to give an overview of the fights that's going on? Do you want me to give you the sheet so you remember?
Okay. Well, no.
Yeah, because you can't see.
I can't see. No, I can see.
All right, Frank Warren.
I mean, to be honest, I've been busy last night. We don't realise is we had a dropout last night.
Yeah,
we've solved that. So it's been busy rematching and making sure everything is smooth. But we are there now. We have 9 fights this weekend. Mm-hmm. Let's just run through them, and we'll talk about the Goodwin boxers involved, where they are in their careers. Mm-hmm. So the first one is Joshua Gustave taking on Fernando Valencia. So Joshua is super talented. He is, I would say, one of our fighters with the most promise. Very strong, trained by Paul Kavanagh, who's an excellent coach. And I think Josh goes on to big things in boxing. He's only had a couple of fights so far. But, I would expect to see him knocking on the door for titles at the end of 2023, and when I say knocking on the door for titles, I don't mean competing for them, I mean winning them. Mm-hmm. He
brings a huge fan base, always great to deal with, willing to certainly a prospect to watch out for.
I mean, he's a TV fighter in the making, and it's only a matter of time, I think, before we can get him a deal with a TV promoter, but we have to do the building first. And then the plan is to get him on a TV network. He would suit a TV network for every reason: style of fighting, his quality, the fan base he brings. He has got everything, but we've got to do it right and manage him correctly, which obviously is not a problem for us, because so many fighters that don't get managed correctly don't end up getting where they should get. But he will, if he keeps his feet on the ground, does what he's doing. Very talented. If you're at your call this weekend, make sure you watch Joshua's fight, because he's very, very good. Very, very good.
You got Mitchell Frierson on the card as well, also in the stable with Joshua, Paul Kavanagh as well. Second fight for Mitchell under our banner.
Now, what's interesting with Mitchell, I met him and Paul in London when we signed him, and we were talking about, get a fight for a Southern Area title. Then Paul's took him on, and in his first fight, he looked exceptional. The improvement on Mitchell Frierson when I saw him last time compared to what I've seen before was nothing short of outstanding. And he's really knocking on the door now. Now, the champion in the division is a chap called Aaron Sutton, who is, from memory, 14-0, who's English level. Now, Mitchell could beat him, perhaps. He's got more experience than Mitchell, but do you want to fight an English level fighter for the Southern Area? I would argue not. So we really want to develop him, because this is the key of management, is you need to take the right fights at the right time for the right reward.
Can I just Josh, that's something we talk about here, and it's one thing we always stress about. Never fight an English level fighter for a Southern Area title, or never fight a British level fighter for an English title. That's so important in managing a career, isn't it?
Yeah, you don't want to have hard fights the whole way up. You want to give you the best opportunity to win every title. If you're fighting people above the level you're fighting at, it puts you at a disadvantage. Of course, you want to fight the weakest possible opponent. Sometimes it's not always possible, but yeah, you certainly don't want to be fighting the likes of a Michael McKinson, for example, for an English title. Mm-hmm. He's far above that. That is a really, really key issue that's probably goes quite under the radar with most boxing people.
And also as well, it's the money issue as well, isn't it? If you fight in a British level fight for English title, the money's completely different.
Correct. And why would you want to expose yourself at that level? I mean, you know, I think we had a big press release go out this week about we've had 45 champions, and that just shows you, and a lot of these are boxers we took from the start of their careers. Some are where their careers have gone down and we've managed to rebuild their careers. But that's about making the right decisions. So the fact with Mitchell Frearson, I had a chat with Paul Kavanagh. So Paul said, I think we could beat him. I said, well, look, you're the boss. My advice is we sit and wait. But that's the conversations we have with trainers and boxers, is that we've seen enough of this, and I think our decisions are normally right. When you ever have a trainer, and this is fair with a boxer, say, yeah, we appreciate your opinion, but we want to do this, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work out well. Because I think we are detached emotionally from seeing that fighter in the gym, and we can therefore watch them on fight night. And I think we want to make sure everything is bang right. Now, Mitchell Frearson is 100% a champion, providing, but we need to make sure it's done right. But again, he's fighting again this week. He takes on Seamus Devlin, who, give credit to him, is probably in line with Robbie Chapman and Jordan Grantham. And Jamie Quinn, and probably a couple of others I've forgotten, Luke Fash, one of the toughest journeymen out there. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a tough night, but it will be a great learning fight for Mitchell, and it's all geared towards building him to that title.
It's momentum building, isn't it? And you touched on it briefly before we go to the card, so it makes sense to talk about it now. 45 champions since starting. I mean, that's a huge number, and often we don't bang the drum enough for what we do. Sometimes I think about how far we've come. I mean, we're just basically 3 blokes who've managed to, and you've been, and Josh have been in it longer than I have in terms of the management side. But how does that make you feel to have 45? I mean, it's a huge number, 45 champions from scratch, built up. I mean, you've got to be proud of the work that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes I don't think what we do is recognised enough in terms of the management side, because we create champions for people who sometimes, and I'm not going to go through names and say, because it'd be, who really haven't got the right to be champions, who overachieve. And it's a great, when you look back at it, you think this is amazing what we are achieving. And, the latest one was Lauren Parker winning an IBO Intercontinental, made us very proud. And this is what we do. But I don't think people out there realise what we add to people's careers.
I think what goes under the radar, and I've said this quite a few times in the past, if you're Southern Area title level and you listen to us, we'll get you to an English title. Mm-hmm. If you're an English level fighter and you listen to what we say, we'll get you to a British title. Mm-hmm. Whatever level you are, we will take you above that if you listen to us, because we know what we're doing, we know when to make the right fights, we're good at judging between the 3 of us. But people don't listen to us all the time, but the fighters that listen to us, they're the ones that go the furthest.
And I know we talked about it on one of the podcasts that we didn't ever get out because of the sound issue. I think part of the reason we don't necessarily get the credit we deserve for the management is because people see us as a promoter first and a manager second, when in actual fact we're a management company that promotes rather than the promoter that manages. And that's so important. Just to know if you want to outline, Josh, I know you spoke about it before, about the difference between the management and what advantages that gives us in terms of the fact that we don't have to rely on other people, etc.
No, exactly. Especially with the board rules now, with the limited fights, it's harder to get on shows than ever. That's separate. So I could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah.
So we obviously have a team of promoters under the Goodwin banner. That just gives us the advantage of boxers getting out fairly regularly. We have a great team of promoters. We have me, Olivia, Amy, Alan. So it's a really good team, and whatever show the fighters go on, they'll be looked after. Everyone has the same sort of beliefs and morals. Mm-hmm. I think most people always say we run the most organised shows outside TV. I think that's something I'm also proud of. The amount of times we've had boxers go on other shows, come back to us and say it was an absolute shambles. It's different levels.
And that's one thing that's my mantra. People don't realise what we do until we don't do it. you just turn up, it just happens, you never notice. You only notice, you almost become invisible if you do your job well. But from a personal point of view, and again, how does that make you feel, Steve? 45 champions. That's. I mean, it's huge. It's a big number.
Well, I want to get to 50 now.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It's not 45 and out.
No. We want to build, but at the end of the day, we want to work with good people. This is what's really important, because there's a lot of new managers floating about. But what you need to, if a boxer's out there, what they need to actually look at is, with this manager, what have they done? Have they created champions? Is it all talk? Are they better than they are? Have these fighters overachieved? How many fighters have they put in title fights and got them beaten? And have a look at the success rate of what they do, because there's not that many good managers. There's a couple of managers coming through who I think will be good in time. But at the moment, if I was a boxer, would I want to be saying I'm going to have a manager who's going to be good in time, with due respect to everybody, or would I want one that just produces champion after champion after champion? Well, I know what I'd want, and I would let somebody else be the experimental test to see whether they're any good or not. Now, I'm going back to when we started. Boxers came to me, and we were the experiment, right? So they put their faith in me, and it all worked out. But at the time when we started managing, in 2013, there were a lot of other managers out there doing it who have proven to be useless. And yes, the ones that came with us were lucky. They landed on a good one, but they could have easily landed on a bad one. But we're here to stay on the management side, and we're here and we're open for business, and we want to take those fighters that really want to turn into champions.
So coming back to the show at the weekend, obviously we've got Brandon Albrecht, who's on the fight, always brings great support, great performance last time out, stopping Michael Mooney with a peach of a right hand, I think it was.
You do not stop Michael Mooney, right?
No, it's a great
Billy Rumble trains Brandon, and Brandon's a young talent on his way up, and he's the typical fighter that we start from scratch with and develop into a champion. The only reason that we don't develop these types of fighters into champions are their fault. It's not our fault. It's because they get to 5-0 and suddenly think they're Anthony Joshua, and they start losing track of where they are and what they want to do, and they get delusions of grandeur, start believing loads of rubbish they're told. But Brandon, if he another one, he is certain to be a champion. Just got to keep his feet on the ground and develop at the right pace. Too many fighters don't get where they should do because they make mistakes. But Brandon's another one. He's a typical fighter that we take from scratch and turn into a champion.
And he's improving with every fight, isn't he? We've got Ahmed Hatim, obviously not managed by us, but
he's
on the show.
He's managed by my good friend Mickey Amu, who manages Richard Comey, who was former world champion. And Mickey's I've worked closely with since I started out in boxing. He was the first person that I went out for a meal with, and he was starting managing when I started promoting. Become very, very close friend, and Ahmed is his latest protege, and Mickey gets very good fighters. And Ahmed's, I'm not involved in the management side, but Mickey's a world champion manager. He's produced, managers at the highest level. He's a great manager. So Ahmed obviously is developing with him, and I'm sure Ahmed, I've watched him, he'll go on to good things.
Shockey Khan on the card as well. He's fighting Charlie Sheldon. Shockey, great to deal with, likeable character.
Just been so inactive through injury. He renewed his management contract with us earlier this year. His first 3 years were up, and he renewed that for another 3 years. Lovely kid, very talented. His amateur record, people don't realise how good his amateur record was. So it's just a matter of time before he develops. But he's been too inactive to develop as he should. Again, another future champion. But he is starting to get active now and build momentum. He needs momentum. Provided he builds momentum, he's a certain future champion.
And also on the card, someone that you both know very well, Brandon Webb, is back in his second pro fight. Obviously, he debuted in March, I think it was. Spent some time in the gym with Andy Gill since then, working on his craft. Obviously, won his debut, coming a second fight against Michael Mooney. What do you think about Brandon, Josh?
Small world. He's ended up going out with our close family friend's daughter.
And that's not through boxing. That's totally random.
That was pre.
Yeah, totally random. Really nice, Brandon. If you spoke to him and didn't know his box, you wouldn't think he'd be capable of doing it. He's just a really nice guy. And he's got bags of ability. I think it's just about getting out of him. I think Andy Gould's a really good trainer, and I think he's in the perfect setup for himself.
What I think Brandon's done very well is he had his debut in March, and he hasn't rushed to go out again, just a young lad, and he spent that time in the gym improving his craft, and that's so important. Sometimes you get a pro license, everyone wants to fight every week, but sometimes it's just it's beneficial to stay in the gym and work with your coach and develop.
He needs more time than some of the other boxers. He's got the talent, but he just needs that more learning time than some of the other boxers. And just compare him, say, with Joshua Gustav, who's a bit older, but more rounded. So Brandon's going to learn his craft. And I better get this right or I'll be in big trouble, Brandon.
and of course, again, it comes back to management, about right advice to boxers, telling them when they need to stay in the gym a little bit. So it's been good to see Brandon back out. We've also got a late addition. Peter Merger has come on as a late addition. Was due to fight last week, now coming on this week. Titles next year for Peter. But
Peter, what a lovely... I've only met Peter once before, and that was when he fought Ryan Walker, and he was in the away corner, because at the time, Ryan Walker was managed by my friend Mickey Amu, so Ryan was in the home corner. And then Peter came to see us to sign us, and he said, "Can you get me a title shot?" I said, "Yeah, we can do that." He said, "But I'm fed up with being the away boy." He said, "Every time I'm offered a fight, I'm in the away corner." And he said, "I just want to be delivered a title fight where I'm in the home corner." So no problem. So we've got to warm up here, and we're just in the middle of doing contracts for a fight for him for March, where he will be in the home corner and fighting for the Southern Area title. Once I get the contracts back, we'll announce it, but there's no contract signed yet. But it's 99.9% done. So once again, we have delivered and I am fully expecting Peter to be on our champion roster next year.
Yeah, the number 45 will increase. We've got a couple of Danny Boyle makes his debut. Really nice young man. He's fighting Robbie Chapman.
It's a tough debut, you know.
It is a tough debut. Robbie's a tough guy.
He's on the back of 2 draws.
Yeah. But he's a tough guy. But it's a good. I think it's the perfect, knowing Danny's ability. I think it's a good performance. But it's good, nice to have another debutant run out. And then finally, to fill up the card, we've got Mikey Webber-Kane, Graham Everett.
Graham's one of the nice guys at boxing, and he asked a while ago if he could get one of his lads on. And as you know, we are very particular on if we do have other managers. There are very limited managers that we have on our shows, but Graham, it's always a pleasure, and it's really great to deal with him, and it was great to be able to put him on. He's fighting Lee Connolly, who's approaching retirement. Lee's going out with a bang, but he's trying to get to his 100 and then retire. And Lee Connolly's been a great servant to the sport.
He really has, yeah, really nice. So that wraps up the card. So 9-fight card. There's a lot of prospects. People, out looking for, momentum builders. Really, this show, isn't it? No big sort of main event as such, but it's a momentum builder to keep these guys going.
Next week we have some main events.
But next week we have some main event. We'll talk about that next week. A few weeks ago, we talked about it last week, but it never went out. A certain person, although we are a manager first and a promoter second, picks up Southern Area Awards Promoter of the Year for the 3rd consecutive year running. How does that feel, mate?
I'd rather have 45 champions, because Promoter of the Year is great, and it's great.
It's a great honour, though.
It's a great honour to receive it, but being a manager is what makes the difference. Mm-hmm. So. The champions give me more thing, but I'm being honest, but it's great to win it. It's great to recognise all the franchise promoters that we work with. What a great job everybody's doing. The shows we're putting on, the champions we're creating. We can't do the same shows that we used to do pre-COVID. I think we're going to cover that in a minute.
Well, let's cover that now. as it seems that the leading point. So people would have noticed, if you've been to our shows pre-COVID, we had the big screens, we had the lighting, we had all the rigging on stage and stuff like that. Since COVID, we haven't had those up. There's a number of reasons for that, and I know we're in discussions about different things, and we're constantly in discussions about different things. But first of all, for people that don't understand, or may not reason why, because we've never spoke about it, why do we not have the screens anymore?
Well, firstly, it's fun. Well, apart from the fact that the chap who ran it got seriously ill, so we would have to get replacement technicians in, but that's doable.
Mm-hmm.
The board, we were able to run 14 fight cards and more sometimes prior to it. So if we set up 18 fights and ended up with 14, it helps. So the more fights you have on, the more money you bring into the venue. So when we got when COVID came in, the board brought in, I think it was a 7-fight rule, which was...
And bubbles and testing was the original.
So all of a sudden, from being able to break even, make a small profit, we're now making a substantial loss. The board then increased York Hall to 10 fights, but then allowed other venues to do 12, which in my opinion, is the most ridiculous decision. There is no... In my opinion, when we've asked for explanations, the reasons change all the time, and it's ridiculous. I know they're saying it's under consideration again, but with 10 fights at York Hall, you are losing money. You cannot make money as a promoter. Now, we're doing shows here where people are paying out of their own pockets to do it, or maybe getting sponsors to cover the difference, but there's no money. Now, if we put the screens up, it's thousands of pounds each time. Now, we do own the equipment, but it's thousands of pounds to get the people to do it.
Because it's a 3-man rigging team ultimately to have it.
And they're talking working from 11, 12 in the morning, getting home at 3 in the following morning. So it becomes a situation where, because of what the board have done and restricted it to 10 fights, we can no longer afford to do it. Now, if they go back up to 12 like other venues, it starts to become possible. Again.
We can certainly look at something. It's something we've talked about, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're having discussions all the time about how to add more razzmatazz to it. As we're, I want everybody to be aware that we're aware of the things that everybody else has, maybe said about it. It's not something we're...
look, we're the first people, small hall, to bring that sort of production levels
absolutely
to York Hall. Other people doing their own versions, but our original rigging was TV quality. It wasn't half-assed. It completely transformed York Hall. People do miss it, but that comes with a cost. Unfortunately, in the tough times we're in, it's just become unaffordable.
And we don't cancel shows, so we prioritise sustainability and don't cancel the shows over production, because we feel it's more important to have a show run that doesn't cancel rather than have less shows per year that's got lights.
I'm not going to sound people out, but we're talking about every other promoter in London has cancelled shows, and we haven't cancelled a show in London, and
we've been cancelled. We've been cancelled with the Queen.
But we have not.
We've had 2 shows cancelled at York Hall. One was due to COVID, and one was due to the Queen's death. So I don't think that's a bad record.
Absolutely, yeah.
One was also caused by a doctor.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
and a faulty ambulance.
Yeah.
But so we've never cancelled a show. So we go into the weekend, and no matter what the financial penalties, one of the clauses we got with our franchisees, they can't cancel. Mm-hmm. They can't cancel for financial reasons. We're the only promoter that doesn't cancel. Mm-hmm. And this is the point, again, that goes unnoticed. Everybody else spouts all the stuff, but they cancel shows on people 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days before. We don't do it. We make sure. Now, that's why we can't put all the razzmatazz up, because we are with the board's ridiculous clause of 10 fights. We have to make sure we run these shows. I can't expect franchisees and promoters to be digging even more into their pockets or having to get more money from sponsors because they've got the screens up. Mm-hmm. Can't expect it.
Sure.
The board are not giving us enough mandate. Costs of their doctors have risen. Costs of their officials have risen. Ambulance costs have doubled. All costs have increased. Opponents' costs have gone up. Everything's rising. The only thing that isn't rising is income. and therefore you can't do it, and it's just not viable. We'd love to do it. We'll hope to be able to get some sort of format back, and we hope the board somehow stop this crazy vendetta against York Hall and put it up to the same as every other venue in the country. Because there's nobody, I've been into lots of venues in the country, and nobody can tell me that the York Hall facilities, in terms of the dressing rooms and the medical room, are the worst in the country. I mean, I can give you loads that are much worse. So it makes no sense.
Okay. We finished that rant? Are we good? It's
That was a very loud and passionate rant.
yeah, no, it's good, but it's important. It's important to. We wanted to talk about that just so people are aware and didn't know. When sometimes we don't cover things as clearly as we should do. So I think that's important. Coming back to Southern Area Awards, obviously picked the Promoter of the Year. We also had a couple of other boxers pick up awards. We had Jack Hughes versus Paul Roberts, who picked up Southern Area Fight of the Year, which was their second fight. They fought I think it's the second fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, the second fight was better, and it was a deserving winner of the Fight of the Year. It was back and forth fight for 10 rounds. Both of them left absolutely everything in the ring, and it was a really, really good fight. And
it was great on another for a couple of levels. Number one, it was great for Jack Hughes, colourful character. Everybody knows Jack and what he's done, and I know you're very passionate about Jack and his attitude, because he didn't have the best start to his career, did he?
Well, he started off and he lost to Sergei Tasmanov, I think was what his name was, Tasmanov, who was 41 at the time. And Jack wasn't ready to debut, and even his trainer said he wasn't ready to debut. And he went in and lost to somebody who'd lost 80 fights. Most people would have said, that's me done, I'm packing up. But he didn't. He carried on, kept improving. He then got him a Southern Area shot against Ricky Little. He lost. And he did lose the fight. There was no doubt, in my opinion, he didn't win that fight.
Yeah, he didn't go straight from the Tasmanov title to Ricky.
No, he had some wins, but he built him. He had the fight for the title, and he lost. But he dusted himself down, went again. And then he got a draw with Ricky Little. Draw was probably a fair result. I definitely don't feel, when I watched it on the night, I thought it was very, very close. But again, he still hadn't won the title. That was attempt number 2. But no, he dusts himself down. He comes back again for fight number 3. Put a lot of improvements into his game with his trainer. And he came and won his title. Now, for somebody who started with very little experience, started with a loss to Tasmanov, and comes through and wins a title, I was absolutely proud. You know, I've looked after Jack since day one, and I was so happy for him. And he then made the decision to retire, which, despite the fact we could have got him an English title shot, I get that. I think he's overachieved.
Sorry, did you say he fought Ricky Little twice?
No, Ricky Little, then Paul Roberts.
Yeah.
Sorry if I got that.
He lost to Ricky Little.
So he lost to Ricky Little, then he drew with Paul Roberts, and then beat Paul Roberts in the rematch. So apologies.
I'm glad you said that, because that's all that was going around my head as I was trying
so I apologise, got that wrong. I was thinking ahead to Anyway, he done that, and then he decided to retire. And at first I thought, what are you retiring for? Then I thought, no, that's a really smart move, because he's achieved more than he could ever have expected to achieve. And why not go out on the high?
Yeah, I completely agree. However, on the flip side, he could win more potentially. But 100% people.
I mean, I think he'd win an English title, you know.
Yeah. But I actually think it's the right decision. I think going out on the high is
not enough boxers do it.
No, absolutely. But you're right in terms of, I think Jack could go on and win other fights as well. But I actually think it's the right decision. I think he goes out on a high. But what he did show is that resilience to keep going. You see so many pro fighters, because tickets selling, etc. like that, and mentally as well, they lose one fight and they throw it in. Jack lost his first, just kept going, went for the title, lost, kept going, went for the title again, drew, kept going, and finally got his just resorts. And obviously Paul Roberts as well, not managed by us, but was great to deal with. So deserving both times they fought.
I hope Paul Roberts, because Paul Roberts deserves to win a title.
He could definitely go on and win a title.
So I hope that his management group find a way for him to win the title, because he's good enough and he deserves it.
And nice people. So they obviously won that, so well done to Jack and Paul. We also had Robbie Chapman, who picked up Best Supporting Boxer, so Journeyman of the Year, effectively. Robbie Chapman, what a guy.
Great fighter.
What a guy.
You can see when you look down his record, when he wants to turn it on, he can beat a lot of people out there. It depends what mood he's in. I think it was you saying he just turns up with carry bag of his stuff, he doesn't care, gets in the ring, no dramas, just will fight anyone.
Of anybody I've managed, you've got to say he's in the top 1% of people that are great to deal with. I've managed him since his career when he started as a prospect. And when he went to being a journeyman, we were discussing it, and he kept having these issues in his head. How can I be a loser? I want to be a winner. But then all of a sudden I think he's clocked at how much money he can earn, he can keep safe, and he can just build up a pot of money so he can go and buy himself a house. And, you know, the bottom line is he's so good at it. And yes, if you annoy him in the ring, so if you're a fighter and you sort of start to give him some stick, he'll think, okay, then you want it. And then he'll come and he gets wins, doesn't he? He gets draws. But he can do it. So if you don't show him the right respect, he might decide to turn it on. If he decides to turn it on, he can win.
He was so funny at the awards as well. We got up and took his award, then went to the mic and said, sorry, I thought this was the award for the best looking boxer.
Is that what he said?
It's so funny. And like Josh said, I love his character. I love the unfussiness of him. Like I say, turns up with his boxing. You have some of these boxers turn up matching tracksuits, the thing in the suit bag and everything like that. Robbie turns up with an Audi carrier bag. Like, I just love that unfussiness of Robbie.
But honestly, to deal with him is amazing. And I wished I had 400 Robbie Chapmans because I could manage 400 boxers with no problem.
Yeah, he's brilliant. But we've got a good few journeymen. We've had a few journeymen before. So I mean, we've got Phil Williams. What a great journeyman Phil Williams is. Great guy, heavyweight. Tests the best, and certainly has bags of potential.
And I've got to say, Phil's great. He's great. A little bit more intense than Robbie. I think it's fair to say.
But what a guy! Such a nice
great man, and he's a really lovely man. And I could ring Phil up and ask him to do me a favour, and I know he'd turn up and do it for me. He's great, and it's great to look after Phil. I really love Phil.
He's been in some good boys as well. Fabio Wardley, isn't he? Phil, he's been in with on.
Yeah, Phil's been nearly everyone, every heavyweight prospect, and he goes a distance with nearly all of them. I think the only ones that ever really stopped Phil were the ones that are probably going to be.
Johnny Fisher stopped him.
Fabio stopped him.
But
we're talking top level.
Now we're talking the levels that are going to go on to British and beyond. Mm-hmm. Josh is bang on.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the other ones. Michael Mooney, another journeyman we've got. Very, very good. Very.
You talk about Michael Mooney because I spoke about the other journeyman. Michael is. Michael, we only took on a year ago?
Yeah, just over a year or so.
He's great. I mean, he's a character. What a character. Good fighter too. Again, brilliant to deal with. Mm-hmm. Brilliant to deal with. And no fuss, just wants to get on with his job. But no, he's been brilliant. And I've got to say, he's been a pleasure to look after. Well, the journeymen are actually as pleasurable to look after as anything.
Yeah. It's good. It's hard to find good journeymen, isn't it? One we haven't mentioned, Jordan Granham. Now, we're talking about characters. Jordan Granham, what a guy.
Yeah, I think he's probably when he's on it, he's probably the best journeyman with Robbie for me, outside the heavyweights. Not fast. He'll fight anyone.
He's so funny.
He's just got his personality is hilarious. He just makes me laugh when I talk to him. Extremely talented. I think he won. Was it 17 out of 17 amateurs?
25 out of 25.
Was it 25 out of 25? Yeah. Really talented boxer. Couldn't really. I think he struggled to sell tickets and decided he wanted to go on the road, no money, he could stay safe. And
he's brilliant and multi-talented. Incredible chef.
Great cook. Him and his partner.
Incredible chef.
I mean, the food is amazing. The mac and cheese.
I'll tell you what, honestly.
And the prawns. I mean, Jesus, they are fantastic.
Incredible. People don't know that. You wouldn't think that about Jordan Granham, but and even the drinks he makes. He makes some soft drinks as well.
I think that's why he has issues weight making sometimes. He drinks too many of them, doesn't he?
Incredible. But, and again, we've had some great ones. Obviously, Calamide. Obviously, we had him for a little period of time. He's taken a break out of boxing. Ozzy Jervier, cruiserweight. What a guy Ozzy was. Had him for years.
And I'm saying it again. Another pleasure to deal with.
Unfussy.
Lovely man. I'm waiting for him because what I like to do when boxers like Ozzy retires, I want to take him and his wife out for a meal. So I'm just waiting for Ozzy to come back and give me some dates because I think I want to take him out to thank him for what he's done for boxing and how great he's been to deal with.
And it wasn't just a journeyman. Obviously, Southern Area champion. You know, he's a
challenger.
Challenged for the Southern Area a couple of times.
Beat Jose Lopez.
Yeah, beat Jose Lopez.
Camacho, good fight.
Yeah, like he's been in some. So he wasn't always a journeyman. Obviously, went journeyman route in the end, but a real talented boxer. Lee Devine, obviously again a great one. Good just journeyman comes and things. Obviously, he gets some time out at the moment. I think he's probably retired now, and I'm not sure if we see.
Well, I mean, I think he's taken a long time out, so I think if he's not retired, he's near a retirement.
But it's again great to deal with, and obviously got a new one now. Casey Bradham going on the road looking for away fights.
So he just had the one, and he learnt a tough lesson in that fight. He fought above where he should be fighting in weight. And it told on him. That's a good lesson. He'll get his weight down now, restart back in December, and I think he'll end up being a really good, tough journeyman.
So that's the journeyman with the Southern Area Awards. We obviously picked up a couple of champions. We've alluded to it a little bit already. Obviously, it's a few weeks ago now, so it's a little bit outdated. Lauren Parker picking up the IBO Intercontinental Champion on the Unified Promotions, Susanna Schofield and Richard Poxon. And obviously, we have William Webber pick up the Super Middleweight Southern Area Champion. But two more champions are part of that 45.
Both trained at the 666 with Paul Webber. And he's had... Paul Webber and that gym have had two champions in a short space of time. Lauren Parker came to us with a record of 4-1-1. Didn't look good on paper. The improvement's been humongous.
Got assigned straight to a TV promoter. Never fought on our show. Put straight onto TV.
But she was prepared to fight on our show.
Sure, I know, absolutely.
Because this is what the point was. Our shows build you to that level.
Yeah.
But with her, we could bypass our shows. And, she's now a couple of fights away from a potential world title shot. And, I think now with Lauren, she's got to have the opportunity to prove as good as she is. If she's good enough to win a world title, she'll win it. But she's going to have that opportunity. So we're going to build up. She's not ready for a world title yet, not on the back of 110 rounder. I'd like to see another 10 rounder first and then take it from there. But no, I think by the end of 2023, it's going to be all systems go.
And William Webber picked up the Southern Area Super Middleweight against Max Lovell. Again, seems like a decade ago again now, but again, great fight, just a great fight.
Yeah, really, really well matched fight. It was one of those fights for me that it was close at points, but Will was the clear and deserved winner. Won by 4 rounds, I'd say. Really good performance, but Max put up a really good fight. It was a really entertaining fight, but it was a testament to how good you can get Southern Area fights if you match them equally.
You're right. It was one of those fights that was a comfortable win for Will, but was competitive.
Exactly.
By the way, I didn't think they were matched equally.
You thought Will was?
I did.
Sure,
I did. It was I think competitively is probably a word. I guess if we're matching our fighters with...
It's not like it was a blowout in 2 or 3
No,
rounds.
I'd say competitive. I mean, what we try to do, and you can't always do it, if we're matching our fighters with other people's fighters, we've got to think we're 60-40.
Of course, but would you say on paper that was a 50-50 fight?
On paper.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, definitely no. I'm not picking holes. I'm saying that on paper it looks like an equal match, but we didn't think
we favoured Will. We
thought we know Max very well. He's had a majority of his fights on our show.
Great fight.
Max will win. By the way, Max will win the Southern Area title.
Yeah, definitely.
He's good enough, but. Just we didn't think he was good enough to beat Will. That's why we made that fight. But we got it right, and that's great. So if Will's, that's. But it was as Josh said. I mean, I only saw it on Zoom.
Via Zoom, Turkey or America or what country was you in at the time?
I was in Turkey at the time, but I think Josh. I mean, I just think it was as Josh said. He was just always that little bit better.
Yeah. So coming up to the fights, obviously we talked about this weekend on our show. We've got the Boxer Show that I've printed out very small, which is very difficult to see. But we do have a fighter on it, and I think we'll start with that one. Ross McGuigan, cruiserweight. I was going to say lunatic. Lunatic's the wrong word. But just a passionate guy, Ross, isn't he? Just incredible.
Fight absolutely anyone. I've never ever heard of a fighter with 2 fights in. It's called out Southern Area English British champions and meaning it. You have people do crazy stuff like that, but don't actually mean it. He will fight anyone, and it's got to give all the credit to him because there should be more boxers like him.
He's so much fun. He's so good to deal with as well. Such a personality. Tough fight for him for O'Reilly. 6-0 is a decent prospect.
You've got to look at the bookmakers. 20-1 Ross McGuigan, right?
Yep.
So the bookmakers are the best judges, right? They know they put their money down. So they're giving him a 20-1 shot. That makes him a really big underdog with the bookmakers. But at 30,
there is a chance the bookmaker don't know much about Ross McGuigan, though.
Correct, but 100%. But what I'm saying is that's on paper. When Josh was saying that's an equal fight, on paper, that's the right odds.
And I think we would have Vidal Riley as the favourite probably in terms of.
Of course, Vidal's a class fighter,
Yeah.
top amateur. He's obviously made his name on YouTube, but he's a boxer first, really.
Sure.
But it is his hardest fight today as a pro.
Absolutely.
Ross can punch, got quick hands, quite tall, strong. So you can't rule Ross out.
That's a great fight.
By the way,
It's
we're
a
not.
really
What I
great
did
fight.
say, he's not in this fight thinking we're 60-40 favourites.
Sure.
He's in this fight because he's 36 years old. He's a cruiserweight, and he needs to take his chance because a win here would propel him to further fights on Sky.
It's huge, yeah.
And if he loses, it doesn't. He still ends up being 3-1 and could go down his same route of trying to get a Southern Area shot.
yeah.
So it was a no-loss fight, but the opportunity was too big to turn down. If Ross was 22-23, you probably wouldn't have took this fight.
Sure.
But at 36, he's got to roll the dice.
But he's well up for it as well, so it'll be
Yeah.
a good, right? Dalton Smith versus Casey Benjamin is the main title fight. Good fight. Dalton Smith is a,
Yeah,
is a
I
prospect.
rate Dalton really highly. It's a decent fight, but Dalton should win that fairly
Should
comfortably.
do. I think Benjamin 16-1-1. Obviously,
He's a good small hall fighter.
Yeah. So it's a perfect match of that. Natasha Jonas versus Fareed Dakari for the IBF, the WBC, and the WBO World Super welterweight titles. What do you think of that? Decent fight. Natasha Jonas win. We think.
I haven't even looked at the opponent.
I have no idea. I do give credit to Natasha because obviously she got knocked out earlier on in her career. And obviously the majority of people, including me, said, well, she's never going to reach the top level. She proved a lot of
Up and
people
right
wrong.
and gone things.
So full credit to her.
I fully expect Natasha Jonas to win that fight. Tyler Denny versus Bradley Rhea.
Now that
Good fight and relevant
to us. Shall I deal with Brad and Linus? Or we deal with
Yeah, so let's deal with that then. So it's relevant to the Tyler Denny Bradley Rhea fight is relevant to Brad Pauls because Brad Pauls was the mandatory for that fight.
So let's go back.
But hang on, just let me put the context for it. So people would have seen that there was a statement released by Wasserman that Brad and Linus had been released from their promotional contracts, and I know we'd like to give some clarity on the situation.
What I would say on that is, how can you release somebody from a contract who's not under contract? So let's just leave that there. So what had happened was, Brad was made was put out to purse bids against Tyler Denny by the board, and Wasserman's were not interested in doing that fight, so they wanted to pull him away because they had another objective. I will discuss this more later on. But I managed to get Brad mandatory because that was the only way I could protect his interests, because other than that he was having nowhere to go. So he got made mandatory. And what we then did was the Wasserman contract was over, and we agreed with Sky to step aside to allow Bradley Ray to fight Tyler Denny, because the issue was Brad was still technically under the issue of Wasserman, so it suited us. And we've signed a deal with Sky to fight the winner in the new year. So it meant that I was able to protect Brad. I was also able to get him a fight on Sky, which would be his big opportunity.
So assuming you think Bradley Rhea wins this fight then?
I think Bradley Rhea wins, but Tyler Denny's a good fighter, so I'm not going to write Tyler.
We know Tyler before on our show.
He's fought Linus,
really close fight, really
he's
good fight.
Massively improved, but I think Bradley Rhea wins. But the bottom line is, Brad has a fight. His fight on Sky, and I'm getting him a warm up in December as well, in Dunstable. But the bottom line was, it was difficult to navigate, knowing that the issues with Wasserman, it wasn't going to plan, and we had to navigate the contract so that he was no longer under contract. Because when you have a promotional deal with a TV promoter, they can stop you doing fights because you have to both agree. So Brad would not have got this English title shot had he still been with Wasserman's, because they did not want to do this fight. And therefore for Brad it made more sense to do this fight. So that's what it was. So the issue was the determination was both Wasserman's and us were happy for it, because we're happy, but from our point of view, it wasn't a deal because the contracts were out,
Mm-hmm.
so it was finished. But rather than accept that, they put this statement out, which I thought was very odd, because they said they were releasing them, but you can't release somebody who's not under contract.
Yeah, and there was no fallout. Just the contracts come to an end, and sometimes it's just normal business. It's no thing.
Yeah, exactly that.
Linus had a great fight with them, I think.
And you've got to say, with Linus, they gave him. We'll give him credit. They gave him home advantage against Denzel Bentley.
yeah, great fight.
They bid. They put their money down. So, we got to be thankful that they supported Linus in his British title challenge. So, no big problems, but there were reasons that it was the contract had come to the end, and at that point we were going to look at other options.
And I say that's just the distinction I want to make is that in boxing there always likes to be a drama. Sometimes it's not drama. Sometimes business just comes to an end.
Do you know what? It was really strange. There was no need to put a statement out.
Sure. Yeah. Just sometimes business it comes to an end. It's not
so
like
it creates drama and everybody going, why have they released him? What have you done? I'm thinking, well, you haven't. He's not on the contract. There was no need to write anything.
Yeah. So it's sort of blown out of proportion a little bit. So and then obviously just on the rest of the only other one to talk about Fraser Clark versus Kamil Sokolowski.
Great opponent for him, Josh. What do you think?
Yeah, no, Kamil's obviously been around for years now. He's actually
Throwback Kamil, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a really good fighter. He's had quite a few wins on his record. He beat obviously Don Charles' son a couple of years ago.
Yeah. AJ Carter, was it?
AJ Carter, did he beat? It might have.
Sure, he beat AJ Carter. I could have made that up, but I can't remember. He's beaten a few good ones.
He's beaten a few. And do you know what? Fraser Clark will win it, but it will show us where Fraser Clark is.
Absolutely. Gatekeeper almost, isn't he?
Yeah, if he wins it every round, he's going to go fairly far. If he stops him, he's probably going to be his world champion level. That's how I'd see it.
Yeah, agree. Do we think Fraser Clark's world champion level?
No.
Unlikely.
Okay.
But I'll tell you after.
We'll know more Saturday.
By the way, lovely fella. I remember meeting him when he was doing security.
Excellent, yeah.
He's a lovely bloke, and I hope he does win a world title because he's just a nice fella. But I don't think he's good enough to win a world title.
Wish him every success with it. Yeah. This podcast has gone a little bit, but there is one subject that we cannot go without, which we talked about last time. This is and we have to be careful what we say because we don't know. We can only talk about the information as it's known to the public. Everybody already knows what we're going to talk about from just at that. The Conor Benn situation. It has been a bit of a dark cloud over British boxing. What is your opinions on the Conor Benn situation, Josh? To start with you, and then we'll let it down for Steve to say something he probably shouldn't.
And I'm going to be very careful on what I say because on the one last week I said something got told off afterwards. So I'm going to be very careful.
So the fact of the matter is we don't know the outcome at the moment.
Exactly.
All we know is there's been a failed drug test. We think multiple now, from what I understand, and there's now an investigation.
For me, from what it sounds like, they're going down the contamination route. I've seen eggs in a report. I've seen them blame a supplement that's been contaminated with a substance. If that can't be proven, and it's clear that he did fail 2 tests, and there's no reason for it, for me, it should be, in boxing especially, a lifetime ban.
Mm-hmm.
I think there should be zero tolerance. It's at the end of the day, you're having physical advantage over an opponent that could end up potentially injuring them or killing them, worst case scenario. I just think it's not acceptable. However, none of us know the true facts. Contamination does happen. I know a lot of people are very sceptical about it, but none of us really know. On the balance of probability, do I think it's likely that he will get a 4-year plus ban? I think it's unlikely. I think they'll come to some arrangement we've seen in previous cases. But at the end of the day,
He'll serve a ban of some sort.
I think it's hard to fail 2 tests and not serve a ban of some description.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months.
And whether that's a contamination or whatever, we still think there's going to be a...
But obviously, if you can't prove that, I believe you can usually go for a 4-year ban.
Yeah, that's standard 4-year is the...
I'd be surprised if it's that long. I'd imagine it'll be somewhere thinking in between. It's just hard. Conor Benn's a big name, lots of money behind him. UCAD aren't well funded.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in a tough position.
And Steve, what's your opinion of it? Do you think it's...
You really don't want me to...
No, do it. In terms of...
because my...
We have to go with what we don't know. The answer is the key. There's one thing I want to clear up here is the B sample. So there's one thing that people talk about, why haven't the B sample been tested? Wasn't it? A couple of things from my understanding, could be incorrect, but I'm sure I'm not incorrect. The B sample is taken the same time as the A sample, so 99% of the time that shows the same result.
99.999.
999%, it's the same result. There is only one person, in my understanding, that can request a B sample to be tested, and that is Conor Benn himself. Because it is a medical thing, the same as I couldn't call up the doctors and request something for you to be tested, it can only be one thing. So people talk about why it hasn't been tested. From my understanding, I think it's only Conor Benn that can request that. That may be incorrect, but I'm sure that's the case. And there's been no reason to test it because
It's a two-failed test. That's not a dodgy
And by
one.
not testing the B sample, it leaves some sort of mystery up there.
I don't think it does anymore with the second.
No, but I think
no, because I think people understand it's genuinely the same.
They think it does. He doesn't want a B sample done because B sample is going to be the same as A sample.
Sure.
Yeah.
And 99% chances is. Do we think this is a? Do we think so? We're not saying he's guilty, however. Do we think this is a problem in boxing?
All sports, I believe, a lot of athletes, top-level, world-class athletes, takes us to enhance their performance.
Mm-hmm.
There's too much money in it. Of course they do. It's just, and the punishments usually aren't that severe.
How do we overcome it?
Lifetime bans, better testing, more funding for the anti-doping agencies.
So they don't get out legal. Remember what happens. What I do know is, if you've got enough money, you legal up against these, and you can normally out legal them by the amount of money. And we can go on this, but most of the stuff I say would not go down well. So I think that there are so many high-level athletes now that should be banned, and are not banned.
But you think Tyson Fury, they done a retrospective ban, didn't they?
Sure,
He's come out of the ring.
Time out.
That's not a punishment.
Sure.
And that was because he had contaminated meat from a farmer who didn't even sell the meat or whatever it was. It was just we can go back and analyse all of these, and I don't want to get myself sued, and I better not say any more. But in my opinion, Conor Benn, barring being able to prove anything, should be serving a lengthy ban, and to try and blame eggs is he's pushing it.
The only thing I think was good is the wrong word. The only thing I think was right is the question I think I asked last week, that I need to ask to both of you now because it hasn't been recorded. Do we think the right decision was made in the fight being stopped from the information we had available at the time? And there may have been more information that wasn't available, but even based on the information that was available to the public, do we think the right decision was made?
Well, the Boxing Board of Control are the people who had all the information. The Boxing Board of Control would have made money, had a lot of money, if that card had stood. They were the people who had the information. They're the regulators. They made the decision to stop it. There's no ulterior motive in them stopping it because it's better for them if it runs. So on the basis that they made the decision to stop it, it was of course the right decision to stop it.
And do you agree?
Right decision, should have been made sooner.
Yeah.
It's that simple for me.
If that's the,
But we don't know why, and only the Boxing Board and the people
we don't know the time. And we'll probably never know, and we don't necessarily
But
have to.
was it cancelled on the first?
It was very short, wasn't it? Bearing in mind he failed a test a long time before.
So it should have been.
But we don't know. But what we don't know
is the timeline.
I mean, I don't know this. I'm making this up. We don't know whether he failed the test and the legal side of Conor Benn knew, and they legaled up against the board.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the point. We don't
don't know why
Judging
not.
from Hearn's comments, he's complaining about the board
Doing it so late.
I've
seen that.
So I think if that's the reason why it took them so long, because it was legal proceedings. That's a bit of you've got no leg to stand on.
But if they've just sat on it and done nothing, then they should have gone earlier. But they should have, better late than never is what I say. But he shouldn't. He should not have been allowed to fight with 2 banned tests for a substance that is used as a masking agent for the bigger stuff that's taken.
It's not a masking agent. It's
restart the cycle.
It masks it and restarts the cycle.
It's one of the things. Not saying that's what it's been done for, but that's.
You've had bodybuilders come out and say you use that to
kickstart the next cycle.
It's a natural.
But it's supposed to hide it, isn't it?
Well, my understanding is that basically you come off a cycle. But people that have used it for bodybuilding, when you're taking steroids and testosterone, your body stops producing it.
Yeah.
So this drug's effect is that it gets your body naturally producing testosterone again.
Basically, that's one of the reasons it does. So when you take a steroid of some sort, you stop producing testosterone naturally, or your ability to drops massively because you're getting it artificially, synthetically. So the body doesn't need to produce it. What this drug can be used for, and again, not saying it's been done in this situation, it can be used to restart the natural cycle and getting the body to start to produce testosterone naturally again. But again, there's obviously many things he could do. It's a female fertility drug. There's all sorts of stuff, and let's say it could be contamination.
I think he's getting banned because Eddie's moved his position now to. I'm expecting him to serve a ban, so I think he knows the ban. There's a ban coming.
Yeah, I didn't have too much problem with Eddie coming out and defending him. Defend your mates, and I think they are friends, and I think you'd want your men to first of all to come out and believe you and try and do everything you can. So I know he's had some criticism of some of the things he said, and some of the things he said hasn't been great, but I do understand his position at that point.
It's a really, I do feel for him. It's a very hard position. He's losing a lot of money financially.
Yeah.
And you haven't got much. There's no time in the decisions or things he could say. And to be fair, I think he has admitted he made mistakes. So he has admitted he didn't get everything right. But on the face of it, it looks like he was trying to push through a fight that a boxer failed his drug test. It's not a good look for boxing.
Sure, yeah, that part's not good. I do think it's also difficult as well. These things happen real time. When you're somebody like Eddie Hearn, you've got 1,000 people pushing microphones in your head. Everyone's asking different questions. Everyone wants an answer of some sort. So I do think it is difficult. So I do think that's a difficult position to be in. But it'd be interesting to see how we play out. I think on this long podcast, I think we've covered most things we need to do.
And next week we'll review, but we've got an extra special podcast coming that we can probably announce next week or so.
Yeah, well, we alluded to it. Oh, no, we didn't allude to it because of things. So that's the point, actually. So do we want to give a little bit now, or do we just want to say that we've
Let's just say we're combining with another podcast with people that are
like Transformer duvets.
Yeah,
like Transformer duvets, and
get your Transformer duvets
somebody
ready.
That's very outspoken, and so we're combining for the first time the two podcasts together.
That'll be really good. So we'll bring more information on that next week.
Yeah.
Next week, so tune in for that. Thanks again. So obviously show this weekend, GB Fight Series 12 at York Hall. Tickets are still available, and obviously we've got a show next weekend as well, the 19th of November at York Hall. We'll talk more about it and we'll review that next week. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you again next week.
Thank you.
Cheers.